Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards. Welcome to Nom Talk Review, a division of Nom Talk Network, where we discuss the latest trend, a really spiffy movie, anything with a milestone, why we nom on our favorite snacks. I'm your host today, Alejandro Cowie, and today I have a lovely dish of honey walnut shrimp, and fried rice. And I will go ahead and do a little shameless plug because I love my Coca-Cola. We are discussing the movie today, Evil Dead 2, and I want to introduce to you my fellow guest. Today, let me introduce, first of all, Whitney.
Hello.
And also, we have Kenji.
Pleasure to be back. Thanks for having me again.
Excellent. May I ask what you guys are nomming on or drinking?
Sure. Yeah. Well, right now I am drinking a Bang energy shot to get that energy going. Bubbly fun, so we're doing this tonight.
I like it. How about yourself, Kenji?
Well, I just finished up my nuggets. I just had some nuggets because McDonald's has got that the Mario Kart Kids meal right now. So
what?
What?
Kenji, you monster! You created. Oh. All right.
And I'm just drinking just plain water here. It's not grappa. It's not grappa. Don't worry.
No, I have to go ahead and double check where those McNuggets are. You said Mario Kart though? Game changer.
They are. I currently have Princess Peach on a motorcycle and Toad in a cart. They're sitting on my dashboard in my car right now.
I'm like excited looking over this Steph in the distance. I'm like, oh my God, please in the future. I just find it. Yeah, I know, right? Oh my Lord. But like, I find it ironic because I think like Bang energy drink would like be the perfect sponsor for a movie like this.
Yes.
I mean, sponsored by Bang Energy. I mean, considering, think about it. I know we're like segueing a little bit to, because I'm looking at Kenji's shirt with Army of Darkness. I'm thinking like Boomstick energy drink, if I may. So maybe that works. Oh man. Anyway, I digress. So I wanted to go ahead and start off a couple things about the film in general. So first of all, I'm kind of curious. Kenji, I want to start off with you. How are you introduced to Evil Dead 2?
So I actually was introduced to Army of Darkness first.
Okay, cool.
I remember my uncle had got it. I think he got it for Christmas. I think that like one year on VHS. And so we all decided, hey, we're going to be watching that tonight. And I can't remember how old I was. I think I was like, I want to say I was like 5 or something like that when we saw it.
Okay, all right.
Like my dad had already seen it and he had like thought it was hilarious. So like he okayed it. He knew that there were like certain moments, but he figured that I'd probably find it more fun than actually scary, which I absolutely did. I thought it was a hilarious movie. I remember quoting, how many 5-year-olds do you know that walk around the schoolyard going, "This is my boomstick"? But then from there, as I got older, I think it wasn't until like I got into like high school, then I like checked out the Evil Dead series because like I usually tried to stay away from like horror movies in general. But like as I got older, like I started to like warm up to them a little bit more. Like now I used to be terrified of like going through like a horror maze, but now I'm like, yes, when I get scared.
Yeah, no, totally. That's cool. Whitney, how were you introduced to Evil Dead 2?
Yeah, I actually watched it with my dad because my dad was the one that got me into horror films. My dad was not strict at all as to what I watched when I was little, when we'd go to Blockbuster, when it came to horror, you know what I mean? So he'd be like, yeah, check this movie out. And it'd be like The Exorcist. And I'm like 5, So we went to go, I remember watching it with him and I thought it was a lot of fun. I loved it. Since I was a kid, I didn't get scared very easily. And yeah, even as an adult, I still think it's a fun classic. It's like that fun campy horror.
Oh, totally. I agree with that one. And it's funny. I love the fact that both you mentioned it, your father's introduced you to it. And in that discussion, because obviously this has a comedic feel, and if I was looking up earlier and I found out that, an Evil Dead 2 is pretty much the remake for Evil Dead 1. It was kind of a embrace of the campiness, so to speak, and really just going in there to give, I guess, us fans something that we enjoyed. And my same thing. I was introduced through Army of Darkness, actually. But for me, I keep on mentioning this reference to the show because this show has made it I guess a major mark for me in the horror genre. Monster Division on TNT back in the day when it was a big thing for me. So once again, Army of Darkness came on, and it was a big thing for me. And it's funny because would you guys agree saying that you could basically watch Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, even segue into Cabin in the Woods, and still know what's going on? You don't have to like watch one to understand the other. Would you guys agree?
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
So, because it's that way. Because like to me, when I was a kid, I was like. To me, I was like, when I was a kid looking into it, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? This has to have like a some kind of history behind it or so forth too. So it was one of those things where I just enjoyed it. It was just the initial view, and especially the initial view. We actually have some comments over here too as well. So for example, what's up, Q? But what I was going to mention before, I got so much in talking this, I want to definitely make sure we touch base with our comments too, mention what they're actually eating while we're watching this, and get some opinions of the show as well. Q, why you gotta make food that's so delicious, man? That like sounds, that sounds yummy. Let's see here. And we also hear that Q mentioned before, he watched this movie the other night with his girlfriend and thought, oh my God, this is really good and a great story, but I'm not overly a blood and gore fan. Which once again, that's funny because Kenji, didn't you mention before the horror thing wasn't your like necessary thing, but this kind of was like your segue into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
see.
It kind of was like Army of Darkness kind of like helped you kind of like of course obviously was my introduction, but then Evil Dead 2 kind of like helped me like figure out kind of like that style of horror for sure, like make me appreciate it more because like I with my I grew up with Japanese like spirituality kind of like horror background.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with like the Japanese like children's horror stories, so like which were like really freaky, but because atmosphere building. But then you had like American horror, which was like a little bit campier, a little bit gorier, but it helped. But like it definitely helped me. Like was a great stepping stone to help me start seeing these other films and like really appreciate them.
That's cool. I mean, it's interesting too how you say that. Not to get off the sidetrack per se off of Evil Dead 2, but it's interesting the transitions they make into Cabin in the Woods. Going in the references that, a lot of sci-fi, even if you're like a big HHN fan, you go into the mazes sometimes, you run into, Ash and Evil Dead mazes. There's all these little homages and so forth to what I consider interesting Japanese horror, coming into things of different genres, the additional slasher flicks and so forth as well. It's kind of interesting how they just really embraced it from there and just went all out with it the whole way through. And the funny thing about that too is that you don't tend to mind some of the practical effects that are obviously bad, when it comes to see those things, it just seems like it needs to happen that way too as well. But other, now I'm thinking about it. What was I going to say here? I apologize. Sidetracked here. Have you guys read any additional, like some of the, like, have you seen any of the comics on the side or anything like that? Or are you guys strictly into the movie so far?
I have dabbled a little bit in Ash versus Evil Dead. I definitely, I've definitely seen a few episodes of that. But unfortunately, right when it was like really taking off, I unfortunately was moving around a lot and I never really got to sit down and watch it. I'd love to though, but as it stands really right now.
Totally.
Yeah, but I haven't had a chance to like read the comic books and stuff. Although I know he's got some amazing showdowns with like Freddy and like Jason and stuff like that. But I would love to see those things. I mean, it's Ash. It's Ash Williams. He's a badass. You know what I mean? I'd love to see more of his adventures.
No, yeah, ever starting, right? No, totally. Whitney, have you seen any additional, or just kind of strictly just the movie franchise, or any additional series or the show or any comics?
Yeah, I've watched a few of the episodes of the show. I'm not too familiar with the comics. I'm strictly mainly into the films, but I would like to read more of the comics, or any of them actually, because like seeing like the Freddy and Jason stuff, that would be pretty dope, No,
definitely. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, because I same here when it comes in regards to additional. I would go into like comics or some of the lore I saw too, because there were some additional spinoffs I saw from the AMC show in general, which the show to me did decently holding with the character and so forth. But once again, I'm not trying to stray away too much from Evil Dead 2, but it's so hard because, when it comes to, thinking about the branch of the story, it starts from this one cap, it starts from the center foundation of, coming into the introduction to the Monochrome. I mean, there's a lot of craziness that is just from this cabin itself. Personally, I don't know why he went to the cabin in general. It's not like an attractive looking one in the first place. So my question is, what was appealing about this? I like, why?
Well, they didn't have Airbnb back in the day.
I was literally about to say
they,
that.
They
Airbnb.
didn't have the photos to verify. They didn't, like, they just wanted to have a nice deserted getaway where it was nice and peaceful in the woods, where they could smoke hashish and like not be bothered. But little did they know.
I can't help it. Like, oh my God. I mean, we got an awesome gift from comment here. Says, hi, I love this movie. A good balance of horror and comedy for me. My friend Donnie got me into the series 2 years before the show aired. I agree. That is like a fantastic balance of comedy and horror. I think that's really what makes this in a demented way wholesome. I look as Ash as that like creepy uncle that I would still go outside and just kind of chill with, and just hear his stories. It's just crazy. And on that note too, you think about all of the slasher blood and gore that's going on at this moment, and I do see him being slightly arrogant in a way in himself, and yet I find myself cheering him on. Like, I don't know why. Like, why does it happen? Like, something this cocky. Like, well, I mean, I would see if it go back to my high school years, or even like 10 years from now, if I ran into him on the street, I don't know if I could actually have a social conversation with him without wanting to. But I mean, yet you want him to live and make it through this film. It's a constant thing, whether he's dishing out with the trees or going out with. Question: do you consider what he's fighting zombies or possessed individuals?
I personally consider it like a possessed individual, because it's still like the live person. It's a person's actual body, but they're being possessed as opposed to like a corpse that was like reanimated. Okay,
I like that. How about you, Kenji?
I definitely second that, because there's the whole point with there's that one moment with like Linda and the mom, the professor's wife, when they're at one point their face straight up goes from being like rotted and like demented and stuff to being completely normal, and trying to like trick them and stuff. So like, I would definitely, like, if you were flesh and rotting and stuff like that, you wouldn't have the ability to do that. I would be like, no, that's true. That's possession right there.
See, I slightly want to take away my zombie card, because I do agree with that. I do agree. my thing was at first, because I guess it's definitely possession. That I have to agree with you. Now I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, but I don't know. I when it comes to that concept, right? You have the possession. You have like I can't even think about it. I want to call them demented treebeards, because they're just reaching around and stuff. We understand they're doing more than a little reach around. I get that. But. The point is, it's like, okay, he deals with exorcism, right? He deals with possession of a literal tree, like demented Mother Nature, all right? And then the next, you're dealing with, I mean, what would you consider the I'm sorry, I can't even pronounce the I would say the Book of Death. What would you consider that in? Would it actually be along the lines of still a possessive? Because it's just not one curse, right? It's multiple things that this book is in charge of, correct? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it is like a multiple, just like a general Book of the Dead that has various like curses, or just a general Book of the Dead.
Yeah, gotcha. It's the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, as it's called. That one have the one for bringing the demon into a physical form, and then you have the spell to bring it into the other realm, into basically was a vortex through space and time.
Yes, the vortex. Yes, exactly. Yes. And then
in the third movie, in Army of Darkness, we have the spell that resurrects the entire army and what have you. So like, I would definitely say like it's like. It's a neat book of spells, It's got a neat little tricks,
Neat book of spells.
Perfect for parties, Perfect for your nephews,
Whitney, do you think you could like maybe this is me just be bitching out or something? Could you actually hold that book? I get the eye and the skin thing to me. I'm not a very I don't know. I mean,
I'm very superstitious, so I'd be like, merely having it in my presence, I'm like, I'm taking something home with me. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't even look at it, don't acknowledge it. I'm gonna bring that bad juju with me, you know?
I want the spirit to backpack on me. This is crazy. No,
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. Oh my God. So, speaking of, like I said, we were talking about Hong Kong, the book in general. I want to hop a little bit in an awkward segue and mention the storyline in this. The simplicity in the storyline that I seem to see here, and yet the possibilities are endless. They took a simple story. They go to a random vague cabin, which one had to hook up with the key, right? And all of a sudden, vague book, vague spell, and yet they had so many possibilities. They went into Army of Darkness with an excellent storyline. As goofy as it was fantastic. We know they segue into Cabin in the Woods later, and there's a lot of universal connections in that sense too as well. But I find it fascinating how something so small and so simple can like branch out into 5 different areas. I mean, I just can't. I personally, when it comes to something that simple and how progressive it seems that it's gotten and how far it is with the fan base, I'm impressed. I mean, I can't get over it. In regards to storyline for you guys, would you go in and mention, let's go ahead and talk about more along the lines, and I'm going to have to mention Army Darkness. Talk about Evil Dead 2. It always segues in Army Darkness. Okay, yeah. So in that sense over there, I'm going to go ahead and talk about rating this in general. So your introduction into going from a viewpoint of liking Army of Darkness, going into Evil Dead 2, what we're talking about right now. What would you go ahead, starting with you, Whitney? What would you currently rate your popcorn rating out of the best out of 5 buckets?
Yep, I'd give it a solid 4. I think it's
solid
a
4?
Great, fun, campy horror film. And I've always loved it since the first viewing.
Excellent. Okay, 4 out of 5. Fantastic. Fantastic. Kenji, what would you go for, buddy?
Oh, I would give it a 4 out of 5 as well. It's definitely not it's not the perfect film out there, However, with that being said, though, there's so much charm to it. There's a lot of fun, I feel it's just a lot of fun to watch, and I don't think I've ever had really a bad viewing, with it, so like it's always, everyone always has a good time. So I would give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Now, the reason why I'm going to ask this ahead of time, because this is, forgive me guys, in like second show I've hosted. So I'm going to actually go back and forth ping pong a couple things. So the reason why I'm asking this, because I also rate this a 4. And out of the shows I've seen, it's been a while since, being a cast straight away through, having similarities on opinions of rating the show, I also have to give it a 4 out of 5. I can't give it a 5. I'm sorry. I want to give it a 5 sometimes, and it's more of a sentiment thing. Both of you are spot on. Campy flick is the first thing that comes to my head with this. I also have to mention, the lead actor, as much as he is who he is as an individual. I understand that a lot of these things are, semi-typecasted, but he's Ash. I can't see him as anyone else. Bruce Campbell. Yeah, it's one of those things. You try what you do, and I see he's like a fantastic Ash. I mean, like I said, I can't. Can you guys see anybody else as Ash? I have to do this. Whitney, do you think of anybody else out there? Can you just reach out maybe? No?
I honestly can't. I just think he really captures the campiness of that character, and it's so perfect. His facial expressions, his mannerisms. Like, I legit can't think of anyone.
Okay. Kenji, how about you?
I kind of feel like this is actually one of those movies where I feel like you can make a remake of Evil Dead, but a remake of Evil Dead 2, I don't think wouldn't work, because especially with like today's like the way that we do movies and horror and what we expect from cinema now, especially horror cinema. So because of that, I feel like because of it's kind of, you wouldn't be able to have the same charm, and that's what Evil Dead 2 is. It's not just what the subject, it's the whole picture. It's the whole woods. It's the trees, the puddle muck, the pond,
Yeah.
you know, the log. It's all of it. It's a whole big picture, and that's what makes it so wonderful. I don't think you would be able to remake it, and I certainly don't think anybody else, even if it was a remake, I don't think anybody could do it.
Yeah,
Bruce Campbell.
See, this kind of gets me, because I actually had a different opinion, and listening to both you slightly changed my mind, but I still have to go ahead and bring it in here. Ironically, I'm going to be a little sacrilege. I was going to go ahead and mention Jim Carrey. I would say, to some extent, if we're going into body structure, who he is as an individual, Bruce Campbell, he just has that stalking natural, I think, man's body, you know, everyday dude, whatever kind of deal, you know. But then I think Jim Carrey could carry that character, obviously. But I do think the body action stuff maybe might be too comedic, because once again, I'm listening to you guys talking about the traditional campiness of it, the foundation of what the horror genre was. He's in the woods, the obnoxious, you know, howling of the air through the trees, why the vines obviously do crazy things. But the thing is you're right. He just fits the dang persona. And I think if Jim Carrey or any other actor did it, they'd probably add their own little rendition, which is a point, of course, as well. But let me not miss the comments here. Let's see here. Q said he would rate the film 5 out of 5 for him. Heck yeah. Evan said she would rate 5 out of 5 as well. Fantastic. Q followed up with a statement. It's great late 80s, early 90s campy horror. Evan said that book has a catchy song in the musical play too. There's a musical play.
You don't know about Evil Dead the musical?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh my God,
There's some things I don't know, but like Evan just like opened my eyes to something. So you're amazing. I'm gonna have to find this out. Ken, you can scold me later. I had no idea it existed here as well.
It's phenomenal. It's like they did it like in the late aughts. Oh gosh, and like it's like this entire musical had like a splash zone for all the blood, and like they had like people like ripping like the actual flesh off and like spitting it into the audience. My friend.
So Whitney, you knew this too? Was I the only lame person? God dang it!
Like, my friend apparently said he made a trip up from Michigan to Toronto where they were doing it, and he actually said he kept a piece of the ham that they used as a prop because it was spat onto him. He was like, oh, I got it. So because that, he like kept it in his freezer for like years, apparently, to be like, hey, see that piece of ham that's in the freezer? That's the musical.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
That's a dedication, you know. I mean, I guess a lot of people have those moments where they're like, that's a little extreme. But you know, it's fine. It's fine. Let's see here. So along with that here, I'm thinking in regards, I don't think there was ever, because I know there was a lot of merchandise. I know for a while, you know, Pop Funko hopped on board in regards to a lot of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness merch. But in regards to a game, I don't think was there a video game?
Yeah, there was a recent video game. It's like Evil Dead, the video game. I think there was one. I know that they've been doing a lot of like, he's making a lot of like cameos as like DLC stuff or like some other like,
right on.
But it's like, yeah, like there are other.
Now I have to. I gotta look at this video game. I want to. You said it's recent.
I want to say it was like probably like I want to say like 3 years. I probably wrong, but I want to say 3 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, while we're talking about the video games, I want to go back a little bit because I know we were mentioning the ratings and so forth, and I want to though touch base like expectations. You know, if we are going and talking about the genre of Evil Dead 2, it's the same genre we talk about, safe to say, you know, Army of Darkness, along with Cabin in the Woods. Would you, Whitney, starting off with you, would you say that it still holds pretty true? It still sets the standards of comedic horror nowadays?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think it's more on the side of like comedy, but I definitely think it's still comedy horror.
Excellent. Kenji, how about yourself? Would you still think it's pretty dominant foundation and standard?
Oh, I kind of 100% agree. I feel like if you're like an up and coming filmmaker, like, you know, and you like want to have like an idea of like what a good horror comedy is, like this is great because like despite the fact that there are these very fun moments in the movie, like the actual subject matter of it is actually pretty terrifying. But it's just the way that it's handled, and it's just the way that it's handled. It's despite its quote unquote schlockiness, the story is actually still pretty solid. So I feel like it's I think so. I feel like this is kind of like a perfect way to be like, this is a good blueprint to probably like take a look at and see. Like, I'm not saying copy it word. I'm not saying copy the essay word for word. Change it a little bit so that it looks like you did do.
Totally, yeah. for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, and what you're saying is correct. I think I mentioned this previous show before. I think there is no traditional story anymore. I think you can make it your original and your own take. But if we think about it in terms like Tristan and Isolde, Romeo and Juliet, there's been so many remakes of the basic foundation of that classic story. And there's nothing wrong with it. As long as you have a twist with it, you're fine. So yeah, I agree that this could be a foundation, because I mean, honestly, I will say my expectations were kind of crazy at first, because seeing, when I first saw this, I saw it personally, I was, I think 13, 14 at the time being, and I was creeped the hell out because once again, we mentioned like how campy it was and weird and the interactions was at first. So I didn't necessarily know how to take it. Kind of the same concept when I watched Spaceballs back in the day. I was like, I'm not too sure about this. So it kind of put me at a weird position, because at the same time, I was introduced to Night of the Living Dead. At the time, I was introduced to Friday the 13th around the same time as well. So when you looked at it compared to those two, you were like, this is kind of goofy and funny. These are, slightly terrifying. But Evil Dead 2 is still slightly terrifying. I mean, you're dealing with like possession. Once again, violent sexual rape scenes coming into the concept. But the way he reacts, I think, is like your everyday person the way he reacts. You know what I mean? I don't think everybody's going to be some like superhero. I'm going to be badass. We want to be badasses, but we're going to look goofy while it happens. I mean, that's just how it happens, So I do think you guys are totally right. Sets the foundation in stone in regards to how a campy comedic horror flick could go. I will say this though. I was very, very surprised coming to the show. I thought I was going ahead and rate it a 2 out of 4 rethinking it, but I know the reason why it was going to originally go 2 out of 4. Once again, I mean, casting and directing, I do think is a little one-sided for who they had, in a sense. However, both of you, your stories changed me around a little bit. I mean, mentioning the concept of how you're introduced to this film, family. That's not the first time I've heard this, and I love that. I love the fact that we can take some kind of campy, gritty, bloody, and obviously fake situation, or fake, I say situation because it becomes something that you can pass down to family or enjoy. Eventually, we could even mention conventions. I know that Bruce Campbell's amazing at conventions from what I've heard from fans. Like, he's always there. I don't know if you guys know any about interactions with him at all or anything like that.
Yeah, I've never met him, but yeah, I know he does do a lot of signings and conventions, and he's pretty cool with that kind of stuff. So I don't know, has he been at like Monster Palooza before? I'm sure he has, right?
Yeah, I do know that was a major promotion. I'm not too sure. Like, yeah, when is it Monster Palooza? I have to look that up, but I do know that when it comes to him being a headliner, I do know that a couple of conventions I've been personally with, I know they weren't necessarily horror related, but when he was the headliner, tickets were sold. It was first 20 minutes just initially to get a signing. So, I mean, from outside looking in and seeing how he interacts with people, that makes sense to me. That makes more along the lines that, reason why things would be signed out and so forth. 3 years ago? Yeah, okay, so he was a headliner at Monster Palooza 3 years ago. Thank you, Steph.
I know that I personally haven't met Bruce Campbell. I know that I have some friends that have worked with him before, and I'm not sure if it was on Evil Dead, because I know he produced the remake, and I'm not sure if he was an executive producer, and I know that he also, or if it was Ash versus Evil Dead, but I do know that apparently he's just extremely nice and great guy to work with, and he's just got a great attitude. So that's something about
it. I mean, it's too far.
Because also, I mean, I also feel like when you see the guy, it's kind of hard to see any bad stories about this guy. You know what I mean? Like there are some celebrities that you look at and you're like, I don't know. I can see that, but no. But with Bruce, you're like, no. This guy just seems like just an all around just chill guy.
He's a cool dude, and he's just like having fun with what he's doing. And I feel like I could just go up to him and be like, dude, I freaking love doing this. And he'd be like, yeah, like just chill and fun.
I
can see that.
Things like, your dad knows me from Evil Dead. You know me from Spider-Man.
Exactly. That's the usher.
That's the kind of stuff you would say.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
We're gonna go back to the comments over here because, for example, Q made it. Oh, dang. All right, Q, you made a good suggestion here. So Q mentioned that it'd be a toss up between Chris Pine and Chris Pratt for him. I can see Chris Pratt doing it. I do. Once again, his own twist. I like that. Let's see here. Look at the comments. Q also makes an excellent comment here. He says the promo poster looks like a Misfits album cover. Dude, I agree. I do see Evil Dead 2 being very, very musically, visually appealing to me. So definitely. Now also too, let's go because I made a little note here because I wanted to talk about it for sure. Also, the name. Oh my God, that would have been great. Eva mentioned Kurt Russell. The way he was like in Big Trouble Little China, I can see that.
I could
that kind of like,
that.
yeah, that little storyteller, that vibe, that arrogant storyteller vibe.
Okay.
But
I know that Escape from LA. Bruce Campbell makes a cameo, and he makes he does this throwaway work shed.
Yes. Oh my God, how did I forget that? Oh my God. See, that would be fun. See, now I want or like do like a continuation where Bruce Campbell and Kurt Russell like help each other out in either Big Trouble or Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, whatever you want to do. I'm not opposed to it. But the slight note I wanted to make, and I digress because I went into it. I originally was going to go and say 2 out of 5. But once again, when we were talking about like how a lot of people bring it up in their family history, that automatically brings it back to 4 or 5 to me. I don't care how bad the practical effects are. I don't care. The fact is you work with what you have at that time. And if we're going to be real, Evil Dead was pretty much an independent student film with like what they had and what they were working with. So Evil Dead 2 being able to like polish that up and really, ham it to the level they want to be. I think, I definitely had to be 4 or 5. I agree with you guys. And that's the reason why I want to mention the first place. I really was going to go 2 out of 5 and possibly have death threats from the fan base, but I was glad that you turned that around there because I agree. It has
I'm a huge fan of practical effects. Like I love practical effects, and I grew up watching films with a lot of that. So it's cheesy and it's campy. It's just cool seeing that something's actually there and it's present, like an animatronic or actual like blood and like prosthetics, and it's just kind of fun to see because to me, it doesn't take away from it because I believe that this person is possessed. You know what I mean? I can kind of see what they're going for. It's campy, it's fun, but like I said, I love the practical effects. I think they're great, Yeah,
definitely. You see, now you mention it. Do you think the film would be any way, shape, or form good if they use CGI?
I mean, Cabin in the Woods is vaguely, like kind of like that. So there's a lot of CGI. So, I mean, obviously it will add to it. I just feel for me when it comes to horror, like I don't necessarily like polished, like blue hues of CGI. I kind of want to see like when it's like a ghost, I'd rather see like a person, a tangible actor portraying it as opposed to like a CGI polished kind of creation. That's just like
kind of like kind of gritty or like being physically there, right?
Yeah. I like the gritty, tangible aspect of like effects.
Totally. Excellent. Kenji, what do you think? Could this film be anywhere the same at all if it had CGI? Let's say dominantly CGI compared to practical effects.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned Cabin in the Woods, so which of course which was a pretty effects heavy movie, which had its moments. But I will also say though that I did not enjoy Cabin in the Woods nearly as much as I enjoy Evil Dead 2. With that being said, like I feel like with horror movies, you do expect like a certain practicality with it. Like I mean, look at the original Thing, like that's absolutely wonderful. And then of course, then you look at the remake, they had a practical puppet on set, but for some reason they decided to go with this CGI thing. And of course, you know what happened. We all completely detested it, and we said we hated it. It looked too polished. It looked like, they were just, basically we were saying that it looks fake and all that stuff. When you literally think about the original puppet, it's like that looks pretty fake too in a way, but it was still pretty
it's like
terrible.
Still crazy.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, tangible. Both of you. That's a really great point, and I agree. I'm trying to think of a moment, and maybe the vines, but once again, there's something about the fact that they're literally there. Like, I guess it's almost the same feeling, and I'm once again not the same exact reasoning of feeling, but if you think about it, as a kid, I appreciated more of like Muppets, actual physical Muppets, or going into like Sesame Street and seeing the puppets or Eureka's Castle compared to the actual cartoons. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I enjoyed the cartoons. I enjoyed animation for their own reason, but something about the physicality of the creature sometimes made it more comedic or more, to me, a little personal as well too. Which I'm going to slightly slide over to the conversation because Kenji, you mentioned earlier that you enjoyed Evil Dead 2 more than you did Cabin in the Woods. But so Kenji, you mentioned before that you said you liked Evil Dead 2 more than you actually liked Cabin in the Woods. And why I found that so interesting, because Cabin in the Woods is your more modern, a modern take of the Evil Dead universe. Whitney, would you agree or disagree?
It's like the modern take. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, a modern take, but would you agree that you like Evil Dead 2 more than Cabin in the Woods, or vice versa?
It's kind of hard. I mean, I'm going to say I do like Evil Dead. I prefer Evil Dead 2 over Cabin in the Woods, but I actually am a big fan of Cabin in the Woods. I thought it was such a fun movie. I genuinely, it's one of my favorites. So I kind of don't want to compare them, but if I did have to pick, I would go with Evil Dead 2.
I have to say, because it's funny, because you're right, and that was a little bit unfair of me to put the spotlight on both of you guys, considering the fact that it's hard to like one movie over another, considering not only the same universe, but when they're awesome for different reasons, it's really hard to actually compare in that sense. But I will say, it's funny you should say that, because the reason why I wanted to originally give it a 2 was because I was a Cabin in the Woods fan. I probably obsessed over it for a little while, so much where I showed Steph on occasion. But the only reason why I liked Cabin in the Woods was it was the most modern take on what I enjoyed so much about Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. So I guess, in a sense, once again, we're going to swim back to the fact that you're right. Okay. All right. You guys change my dang mind, man. Every time I come to the show, I even did the last show. I was ready to go. I'm going to give it this rating. I'm not going to change it. And then both, I would believe it was Amber and Joe, both convinced me in their great significant arguments. And it wasn't arguments. It was just giving their opinions. And like you guys, you're giving your fantastic opinions. And I'm like, okay, I dig it. Oh, man.
I will say though,
Kenji?
I will say though, like I would actually love to hear like someone's opinion on this who has no connection to this whatsoever. I would love to hear someone's take on this who is maybe isn't even a horror fan, someone who can actually just watch a movie to be objective for what it is. I would love to hear their opinion for it, because for all we know, they may detest the hell out of it, but because I feel like it's kind of like, there's like certain movies out there that, absolutely suck, but, a lot of people love it for, all the right or wrong reasons, whichever way you want to look at it. But so
that's a great point. I'm probably going to go ahead and try to get an opinion over from a certain individual that I think is unbiased, and it'd be interesting. I'm talking about you. So, producer staff, what's your opinion? Seriously? Dang it. Okay, I'll have to get her opinion later. So I love going ahead and put her on the spot when it comes to horror genre and so forth as well, and opinion and so forth, because the funny thing is she's like so tiny, so innocent and feisty. And yet when it comes to watching horror genres, to see her response is fascinating. Oh, I'm getting that. What was it?
Okay. Real talk. I've never seen Evil Dead 2. I've only seen Cabin in the Woods, and that's it. so I don't feel like I will be giving a good enough. I know everybody's all mad. Fuck.
I'm not mad.
See,
I'm just
Disappointed.
surprised.
Hashtag
I'm-
disappointed.
see, you know what I got to do now? We got a homework assignment. So this
Yes.
show's gonna have a little follow-up comment. Like, that's what she thinks. Or definitely.
all of the horror movie fans are disappointed. Like all the ancestors, I disappointed in you.
Yes, that's
Oh man. So we got in the comment section here. Q commented, this may be off topic, but I listened to the song Am I Evil by Diamond Head, and I thought to myself that song would be a good horror movie. And the song was covered by Metallica. You know, Q, I have to agree. When it comes to Metallica, it seems that Metallica has a lot of good, what I would consider movie style quality music. I mean, everything they have is, you know, pretty much just, in my opinion, I'm a little biased. I'm a little Metallica. I'm a big fan. Then again, I do like some of their stuff that's not like my other like feel, but regardless, I digress. The point is Metallica is very excellent for soundtrack options for definitely horror films. I agree. Eva says the tone would be different if it was CGI, and it would age sooner depending on the spot on. It would age sooner depending on the budget and who is handling the film. Eva, 1,000% correct. I do agree in regards to, if you think about it, if somebody like a heavy hitter, whether it was Universal, which I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit and talk about Blumhouse. If Blumhouse, a heavy hitter, went around and did this, I think the longevity of it, let's say with CGI, would be longer. However, if it was somebody, let's say a smaller studio that tried to tackle something like that, I do think it would age significantly. I mean, Kenji, do you have an opinion on that, my friend?
I actually would love to see Weta Digital do this, because that's the house that Peter Jackson built. And if you know Peter Jackson's early stuff, he did some really like schlocky, like not even like B movie, like C movie, like level, like horror movie stuff, you know. But like that's how he got his start, and that's how, you know, he built his original resume. So like to see him, I would love to see him like take on, like, I mean, I guess we have seen him take on like horror in a way with like the King Kong stuff with like the spider scene, but yeah, I mean, like I would feel like he would be like if it was a studio like him, like that he was running part of, I feel like the CGI on it would age really well, because I mean it would. I take that back, because I was gonna say, because the original Lord of the Rings movies did practical and CGI and they meshed it really well, but then the Hobbit movies were just a puke fest of CGI. So
we won't talk about the Hobbit movies. We won't talk about Bruno.
I was about to speak about it.
Old Weta Digital. Old.
I stole that for you, Bruno. I'm sorry. No, I get you. That makes a lot of sense, dude. And you're totally correct in that regard. I mean, you think about, you know, the studio production value and so forth as well. And there are some things that I'll even mention, things such as Willow. That stuff still, to me, still ages fantastic, you know, in that regard. And we know the amount of practical effects and very little, if anything, there was no CGI there. But I mean, you know, but some of the after effects they did were fantastic, in my opinion, to hold it up. But I do agree. It definitely would be interesting to see some of those classic hitters in the horror genre tackle something of that nature too. To me, I'm a huge fan of the show. I don't know if you guys seen the show. I'm about a little bit of first season. I almost had a heart attack when they canceled it. So to me, I think honestly, how much Evil Dead 2 had an effect. It was so effectful to actually transfer over to have a show that, in my opinion, can still go. I'm hoping. I know they've done things as well, but Whitney, I saw that smile light up. What's your opinion on the show they actually have?
I've only seen a few episodes and I keep meaning to catch up. But like one of my roommates I was just talking to him about it today, and he was just telling me how much he loves it and that I'm going to love it since I'm a huge Evil Dead fan. And I'm like, I need to get on it. I have a list of all these shows I need to catch up on, but that needs to be like at least top 5. So I'm like, that is my homework assignment this week.
You got to tell me what you think about it. I'm a huge fan. We got to gossip about it when it happens. You got to keep me updated.
Let's do it.
Kenji, have you seen the show yourself, bud?
I've only seen a few episodes as well, but from what I've seen, I definitely enjoyed it. It definitely keeps the tone. Obviously, the gore has been cut significantly down because, I mean, even though it is cable, it's still, it's for TV. So they toned it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, which is totally okay. It still maintains its charm and it maintains the humor that, like that we all expect from the Evil Dead, Army of Darkness kind of movie. So that I loved that. I definitely want to check it out because I think I heard like someone was saying like he's retired as Ash apparently completely. So like now we have to like what we have of him as Ash Williams is like that's all we're gonna get. So like we have to enjoy and love it as it is because that's all we're gonna get.
1,000%. You're 1,000%. I cannot promote enough for you guys to continue the show. I'm a big fan itself. Without any spoilers, without ruining anybody's interpretation of it, very, very vague. It's classy. He comes in to be like the classic hero, in a sense, and he has Squire people working with it. It's just fantastic. Their ability to be comedic, to hold that comedic conversation with him. He's still the same Ash. He's not changed at all from Evil Dead 2, from Army of Darkness. It's him. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not that it's like, yeah, he's still arrogant him, but he's still wise, arrogant him. That's the crazy thing. As this mofo breaks in doors, looking like a car salesman with his hand in the freaking bro, and then chains. It's fantastic.
Chainsaw hand.
I know, right? The crazy thing about this, I do think that it's so successful and more successful than people to think. Because have you guys ever heard of the show Stan versus Evil?
Who?
Stan versus Evil.
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar.
What's it about?
It's a pretty good show, and not to take too much away from once again what we're talking about Evil Dead 2 or going into Ash versus Evil Dead, Darkness. It is literally almost the same concept. This guy actually lives a sheriff of a town, a great individual of who he is. And what ends up happening is he discovers that there's evil that lurks within this specific town that he's at. And possessed people start to raise from the grave. Certain individuals he knows are not who they are anymore. And he starts duking it out with people with just like Ash does. I mean, he's full on like, maybe not a chainsaw, but has a pickaxe. Maybe not that, but has a wood chipper. It's very interesting to see what it goes. But I think the foundation, the premise is respectfully copycatted off of going into like talk about Ash versus Evil Dead. I mean, but if you guys know, it's interesting because I think literally they copy off of it, in my opinion. So once again, nothing to take away from that show. Great show, but I do think its successfulness, the reason why it became so successful on Hulu was because of Ash versus Evil Dead. It can. Classic hero. But anyway, we do have about 8 minutes, so I want to make sure I won't go too much time here. But along with this here, let's go into last but not least. If we were going to I see. I'm about to ask, would you promote this to other individuals? Of course, we promote this movie to other individuals. But also, Eva, you're about to be like my favorite guest. There's a favorite audience member here. There's a new game that should be out this year, but it's similar to Dead by Daylight game. Did you mention Dead by Daylight similarity, right?
Yeah. So it's an isometric multiplayer game. So essentially, I mean, the original. Basically Dead by Daylight is you play as one killer. You have one person who's playing the killer, and then you have 4 other people who are playing as survivors, and then basically you're getting chased around by this one killer. And the way that you play as the killer is first person, but all the survivors are playing in third person. So you have a grander view of like your surroundings and stuff. But like the killer has like all these different like abilities, and depending on who you're playing as the killer, they have different abilities. So like, but like one of the survivors you can get is Ash. So basically he can, I think he has, because of his chainsaw, he has like he already comes with like a certain ability that like the other players don't and stuff.
That's awesome.
It sounds fun.
Yeah.
Like, I feel slightly demented to me liking the fact that I like that. Get to play as the killer. Yay. Don't worry.
Oh, it's fun for sure. It's definitely fun for sure. Like I'm more familiar playing as a survivor, but it's definitely fun playing as a killer for sure. Like, it's like like I said, like all the people from your favorite horror genres are there. Like, I think the girl from The Ring is there. So like they even have her. Yeah, exactly. She's chasing people down and killing them. But they also have like Leatherface too. So like everyone you love is there. It's the Super Smash Brothers of horror games.
Hell yeah!
I'm gonna definitely
sign me up now. Yeah.
So once again, let's go ahead. That's about all the time we have for today, talking about Evil Dead 2 and the franchise of Ash versus the Evil Dead. I just want to go ahead and thank both Whitney and Kenji for joining us. And Whitney, is there any social media we can, our fans or we could reach out to you at? Any social media accounts?
Yeah, definitely. On Instagram under whimsicalwhitney_, and on Facebook or Twitter, Whitney Allis.
Fantastic. Excellent. We're going to definitely get those hashtags out there. Kenji, do you have any social media we can get in contact, bud, or anything you'd like to give a shout out, get credit for?
If you want, you can check me out on Instagram. I do a lot of cosplay stuff there. It's at Kenjinator, KenjiNator. You can also find me on TikTok, where I do a lot of impressions of different characters. I got a lot of videos of that there. Also at Kenjinator. And every now and then I Twitch. I do Twitch streams of video games, but mostly I'm part of a D&D podcast that is on every Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We do a little campaign that my dad is the DM of. My father's an amazing writer, so we're doing some pretty cool things. Right now we're hunting dragons, so it's cool.
That's awesome.
Right on. Fantastic. Once again, guys, thanks for joining me.
I forgot to plug the channel though. It's KD in LA. Please come check it out. It's really cool. I'm not telling you where it is though.
He's like everything, but you're not gonna know.
You're it's a scavenger hunt. Find me.
Yeah,
secret
KD
password.
in LA.
KDLA. Right on.
KD
Right
in
on.
LA, like KD in LA.
Right on. Right on. Fantastic. Awesome, guys. Well, once again, thanks for joining me. Have nerdy conversations. Really appreciate it. Guys, thanks for joining us on Nom Talk Network. We really appreciate you always tuning in, give us support. Remember to tune in possibly with our Instagram tag at Nom Talk Network, correct? I believe. Am I saying that correct? I want to make sure I got this right. Been a little hesitant today. You can reach me at I am Cowie on Instagram. That's IACOWIE. Shenanigans, acting projects, you name it, having fun. But once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. You guys have a fantastic day, and please join us next time. Bye.